Stream says we're connected. I will trust that. I will also trust that tonight I've got the audio correct and you can hear me. Unfortunately, talking to you now about a second straight Sharks loss in a row, 2 in 2 nights, 4 in total. It's amazing how this season swung from, well, recent times swung from 3 straight wins to 4 losses in a row. And these last 3 of absolutely frustrating fashion. You know, in Las Vegas, a couple leads. Give me 1 second here to make sure the chat is showing. A lead late in Las Vegas, a lead last night entering the 3rd period, and tonight's game being tied at 2 entering the final 20, and you know, allowing 3 goals to St. Louis. I understand how the game turned on a dime momentum-wise, and the call of face-off violation against Patrick Marleau. Same Patrick Marleau who our stats will tell you has taken, oh boy, I brought the wrong game notes. This is last night's notes, never mind. Well, I know it off the top of my head. Same Marleau who's taken more than 11,400 draws since the turn of the century. You'd think he knows what to do in the face-off circle, and instead it goes to be a St. Louis power play. Ryan O'Reilly capitalizes, and literally capitalizes 12 seconds in to the man advantage. You know, I was just talking to Scott Hannon about what if the Sharks had killed off that penalty? Does it mean that the game wouldn't have gone to the Blues anyway? I don't know. But it's just, it really is salt in the wound to have to take that penalty, which is so rare, and then have to fall victim on the scoreboard. That was 3-2. They get another one, 4-2, and then the empty netter with Perron makes it 5-2. Jordan Kyrou had a pair of goals tonight for St. Louis, and I've got to say, the way he was able to get in behind Sharks defenders, that in itself was frustrating. I mean, look, when you have pucks bouncing off Erik Karlsson, finding the back of the net, and you know, fluky things will happen, like they did again tonight, but to just have a guy like Kyrou be so pesky and be rewarded for it. Hey, you know what? St. Louis, when they came to San Jose, they had lost 5 in a row. And now they leave San Jose having won the last 2 games. So rough homestand start for the Sharks. 3-3-2 against the Blues this year. And by the way, you're now noticing that I've straight up ditched last night's game notes, because what use do these have for me? Absolutely none. I totally screwed that up. I grabbed what I thought were tonight's game notes, so I don't have all the numbers and stats that I want out in front of me. They're in the club level behind me where I'm all set up inside there. But also tonight was the second half, the start of the second half of the regular season for San Jose. And yeah, they're done with St. Louis. Like I said, 3-3-2. You know, which sounds a bit deceiving. Sounds closer to 500, but in reality, 3 wins and 5 losses to the Blues this year. And crazy enough, tonight was the only game between San Jose and St. Louis that was not decided by a single goal. All the other games, all 7 other games, this is nuts, were decided by a goal each. Tonight was the biggest margin of difference, biggest margin of victory in the 5-2 final. Second half of the season for the Sharks, talked about that. You know, I think it's time to probably get, I won't say realistic, but you know, look at the standings logistically, figure out where you're at. It doesn't mean don't try and win every game. That's not what I'm saying, right? But you have to hope that some other things will occur here in the second half. Development of players. Certain guys can turn things around. The players that have been your best, like a Couture, like a Burns, that they can keep going. On that note, it was great to see Tomas Hertl score again tonight. Here's a comment from Julio. I don't know if it's a good thing that they've played the Blues better than the other top teams. No, and I think that's what I was referencing before, or trying to get to, is that, you know, the Sharks are still winless against Las Vegas. The Avs have been a very tall order for San Jose this year. In Minnesota, they just haven't played them as much. But St. Louis is a team where we've seen, San Jose match up with them for 24 periods, and it wasn't terribly one-sided. All the games were close, literally except for tonight. Talking about the top players for San Jose, and Tomas Hertl missed 6 games with the positive COVID test, and since then he's now been back for 6 games. He actually has points in 5 of those 6 games, and he did score in his first game back, and he scored again tonight. Beautiful feed from Timo Meier. But even last night, you saw Hertl uncharacteristically get outdrawn on the faceoff circle, and it kind of shows you that the setback of COVID, like he had it, and literally having to shut down for those 10 days to 2 weeks, whatever it was. I mean, what a toll it takes on you, not just to endure it and go through it, but when you come back, your legs have been lost, and it's a matter of regaining your legs, your timing. And so the point being is that as much as you've seen him kind of go back through that process and kind of, train all over again, he still had points in 5 of 6, and he has had some rough spots, but has also did score a goal tonight. Fireblade, what do I think about Dubnyk today? So, interesting game. First off, let's talk about the game in 3 different phases. First period, you score first, but then you allow what appeared to be the next 3. That was not good. Now, fortunately, on the Hoffman goal, it got disallowed because of the coach's challenge. There was a zone entry where they were offside. Great. I mean, but it's kind of a shaky first period. I do think the Sharks stabilized completely in the second period. Dubnyk was a part of that. They had to kill 2 penalties in that second, and I just think in the third, the game got away from the Sharks, got away from Dubnyk as well. And I want to go back to the 2 Jordan Kyrou goals. Well, as well as the O'Reilly goal, that was on the power play. So I'm not saying I take blame away from goalies on power play goals, but that's a different one. And Kyrou honestly beat the Sharks' team defense. Jordan Kyrou got in behind San Jose defenders and scored 2 goals tonight. Put your goalie in a really hard position when you got an attacker that's point blank because he beat your defense to get to you. The other thing, Fireblade, I want to say about Dubnyk is just looking at his record this year. I think he's 3-8-2. Sorry, brought the wrong notes like a total dummy. But 3-8-2 does not really reflect to me what I've seen in watching him. And I would think that I think you might have asked that question because it probably doesn't seem that way to you either, that his record would be that one-sided in a bad way. I really feel like the eye test will tell you that Dubnyk's been a better goalie for the Sharks than that this season. And quite honestly, that's why I think teams are looking at him as a potential backup option for them, contending teams that are going to be in the playoffs and make a run at the Stanley Cup. Thoughts on Martin Jones? I mean, look, as Dubnyk kind of made the first push of goalie play, Jones has since responded. He only allowed 1 last night, right? The other one was via the shootout. So Martin Jones allowed 1 in each of his last 2 outings. What I'm here to say is that Martin Jones, it looks like, has, answered the bell, has responded to kind of what Dubnyk started. And I would also say that as much as we're talking about individual goaltending efforts here, and that's my point about the Kyrou goals, team defense is still a huge part of the Sharks equation. Bassett, Uber, Ellis. It's going to be an uphill battle the rest of this season. Now, shouldn't you be sticking to A's baseball? I'm kidding. Huge smile here under the mask, which I'm required to wear when not on television here at the Tank. Just following all the instructions. Don't want to cause any problems. But, I agree. And I just think another great point about what we're in for in the second half of this season is the ultimate physical grind. Just watching a couple players, I won't even name them specifically right now, watching them here in person tonight, being able to see them with my own eyes before and behind the play, there's a couple players that do look like they're ailing for San Jose. And that's only going to be magnified when you have to play 4 games every 6 nights. You play every Monday and Wednesday and Friday and Saturday, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. It's literally like that. It's been like that. It's going to continue on through the rest of March and all of April, basically like that. The volume of games that these guys are playing, and this is, look, I hope this is without any further other setbacks. But I mean, if they have to make up more games and condense more, I don't even see how that's possible. I think they just have to cancel them. There's going to be a lot of toll taken on bodies here physically in the last, 5-6 weeks of this regular season. Honestly, teams that are going to be in the playoffs after this season and with the amount of games in a short period of time, I don't know what they're going to have left in the tank when it comes to the second season. I really, really don't. Julio, did you just jump in the super chat? Because if you did, I really appreciate that. I cannot necessarily see it here because I'm on a totally different setup than I normally am in the home studio. So I can see the chat in a different way, but it says Shiba Dog saying good job while raising thumbs up. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much for being here with me. Do I think Perron tripped O'Reilly? Look, I think if Scott, let me put it this way about officiating. Scott Hannon would be the first person to say, I'm not blaming the officials for that, right? If he is frustrated afterwards and he says the first thing he wants to talk about in our post-game show is momentum changing because of officiating tonight, then I'm going with Hanner. Not a person who would blame the refs as the very first thing. In fact, he'd shy away from that to make it look like an excuse. And the other thing is I wanted to comment on how Bob Bugner approached it and addressed it. I mean, he was asked about it after the game. I saw him here in person yelling at the officials after they made that call right before the power play. I mean, he was heated. I can't repeat all the words, even here on YouTube. But, the way he addressed that by saying, look, it's Patrick Marleau. You called that on. I mean, not only did you call it, we didn't get an explanation of what you specifically called. Did he twist too early? Did he go in too fast? No explanation. And by the way, it's Patty Marleau. Anyway, Dalton saying, we're asking, what's your take on Bob Bugner compared to former head coaches? Do you expect success from him a few years after a few drafts, or do you see him being replaced like DeBoer sooner than later? Let's address all this. I mean, the coaches that I've really got to know and be around mostly were Todd McClellan when I first started here, and wasn't around Pete as much, but certainly observed and got the idea of exactly what he was doing as a head coach. And hardly have been around Bob here at all because he took over mid-season, around a little bit last year, and then this year, the team is completely isolated, and for very good reason. Observing though and watching him operate, I think Bob might have one of the best player-coach, I don't want to say relationships, but methods. Like, he might be the coach that connects with the players the most. And that's not a knock against Todd or Pete, because I think they are excellent. I like them a lot, honestly, in different ways. In fact, we're going to get to see Todd McClellan and his LA Kings come to town on Monday. But I think the point is, Bob's got a little bit of a different style, and even beyond that, a lot of times it comes down to how Pete was fired. It wasn't necessarily coaching or him, it was team performance, and that was kind of the shakeup that the Sharks wanted to try and go with. See if changing direction at the top and changing a head coach is going to wake these guys up. And unfortunately, last year, it did not. So look, I'm here to say that, Bugner needs a lot more time. Bugner needs, a little bit of probably a surge of some new blood after this year if it doesn't work out. And I'm not going to get into a whole reset or refresh or retool or rebuild. I'm not going to get into any of the re's right now on how deep to take this or who or when or what. I'm just saying that, you obviously don't want to go into a next season, identically, because this one is not working out and last one is not working out, and nor do you ever even get the opportunity to bring back everybody. So let me see what else I can comment on here before. Everyone here thinks that face-off violation was a complete joke. Yeah, and I mean, there are reasons for kicking a guy out of the face-off circle, right? Even kicking two guys out. But to call a penalty for it, that's you see guys get kicked out all the time. You just don't necessarily see a 2-minute minor because of that. And again, you don't see it against a call against a future Hall of Famer, taking one of those draws. So yeah, you do see it. You do see guys get kicked out, but you don't see a penalty for it for sure. Let's see what else I can comment on here before I sign off. Maybe one more good one. And it's not like all these aren't great questions, it's just that sometimes I have better responses that are more worth your and my time to get to. Well, I thought I had some more, but I apologize. I think I'm just going to cut it off right here and now. Right then and there, right here and now. I guess it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, and Julio, maybe I'll end up with your comment and your thought here. How many times this year have the Sharks given up a power play goal on the first shot? Yeah, 10 to 15 times. And I agree that, you know what, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's kind of where I wanted to finish. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll get Edgard's comment here too in a second. What if the Sharks kill off that penalty, that face-off violation penalty? I don't know. Do the Blues still score later on the power play? Do they score after that? I don't know. And that's why I don't want to say that any team won or lost the game tonight specifically on that. But it definitely shifted momentum at the time. And the Sharks are a team where, they don't have a huge margin of error to come back and make many mistakes against a team like St. Louis and win and ultimately get the result. But I do agree with you. It just seems like mistakes like that, penalties like that, first shift of the power play, bang, it's in the back of your net. It does seem like that, Julio. That's a really, unfortunately, it's a good observation. And then the last thing I wanted to get to was Edgard. In my opinion, we could win this game or not. No, I absolutely agree. I think you were in this one for the third straight game, right? Lead against Las Vegas entering the third. 2-goal lead. Third period, it all fell apart. Last night, 1-goal lead. 1-0. Fell apart in the third. Tonight, tie game, 2-2 after 40. Blues score 3 times. So I don't think it would have been the Sharks' prettiest effort. I think last night, the only team that was going to be happy was the team that won, and that was St. Louis, just because they won. And I think tonight's game, there were enough good things in the first 40 minutes from San Jose that make me think they could have won the game. But if we're talking full 60, it's a harder conversation. First 40, yes. And shot clock tonight, well, scoreboard's off, but it was pretty one-sided for San Jose. So take away some of the penalties, put the Sharks on the power play a little bit more, as much as St. Louis got. I think it was 4 power plays to 1. Then yes, I think the result could have been a little bit different. I think they were in it. And in it, yes, would allow you to be in the game and potentially win it. So, all right, I appreciate all of you for being here with me. Almost gone 20 minutes. Wow, that's longer than I was planning or expecting. But we're here at SAP Center. I wanted to do this live and kind of bring you in the tank. In fact, I'll close it out with just a live look for a few seconds. So that does it for me. Check out some of the other videos. I have some Ryan Clough content, a little bit on here right now, and some more coming soon. Conversation I had with him yesterday was great stuff. I know a lot of you love Chloe, so that's going to do it. I'm going to sign off and show you look at that camera move right there. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. How fancy is that? I'll let you look at SAP Center for a couple minutes here while I sign off. All right, everybody, have a really good night. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.